Yeah,
too,
I can hear you just fine.
and see like the headpiece that you don't see.
Yeah, you're good.
Like
You're good.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hang
you
on.
can
Let
hear
me
me
just
okay?
let me
All right.
just get everything in order here. We're live.
Okay.
So be careful what you say. Now we are on social media. This is the Soulogy Spotlight Show of the week. We do one every week where we do it on our old social media platforms.
Excellent.
So
Thank you for choosing me for
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
special occasion.
I do everything on synchronicity. And it was the first day of the new week. So I'm like, okay.
All right.
Because I end my week on Sundays. I mean on Saturdays. So
yeah.
okay, let me just
Interested
pull up.
me too, and I feel like I won the lottery with that. So thank you very much, Todd.
There you go. Yeah, let me just pull up YouTube and let me pull up YouTube, and I don't want to do that. I'm just going to mute it, and then we pull up Facebook so I can at least see the comments from these two pages.
That'll be nice.
Just in case anybody has any questions or anything like that, and then we'll roll out the show formally here in just a second. Boom, boom. All right, welcome everybody. We're at the is it let me see, is the title up there? It should be. Yeah, there it is. Isabella A. Green, Soulogy Spotlight Show of the Week. This is the time of the week that we actually go out onto our old social media platforms, and we just go ahead and share a full-length broadcast, because as everybody knows, all of our full-length broadcasts and replays we are exclusive to the Soulogy network, but we give all of our guests a full-length video for them to share anywhere they want. And we also release excerpts from the network, which you'll be seeing more and more of that in the coming weeks. But we have an old friend here. Isabella and I go back to probably like 2018, and we've met in person. We've collaborated before, and she's a good lady. She lives in Sedona, or outside of Sedona, and has been doing the work there for a long time. She comes from Europe, but she spent some time in New York City. If you haven't, if you want to get to know a little bit of her background through the conversations we've had, just go into YouTube or Facebook and query Soul Speaks 5D with her name, and they'll all pull up. So thanks for coming in, Isabella.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence. And we're going to do something a little bit different. You know, we were able to step out of the box, obviously, now that we're not on social media full time, since we were getting a lot of suppression. But we are doing our own thing, and we've been slow getting the information out because we want to have everything just right. We're not in a rush. There's no linear time. We're not under any pressure or deadlines, but we still value our social media community, where we had about 500,000 people a month would interact with us. And about 135,000 that are hard numbers, you know, sign up as a member, whatever the case is, on the various platforms. But one of the things that we kind of had to get away from in regular social media was there's a lot of people or a lot of platforms that are built on promotion and that type of thing. And it just became too much of a burden. We really like to dig into the personal experience of people, their personal skills and abilities, and their own perspectives on things. And, you know, we got two hashtags here. One is I am soul, and the other one is the human is the hero. So we never forget that. But I felt like today, because we do everything based on, you know, that innate intuition. And I felt like, you know what, Isabella's done a lot of work out there, and she's got a new book out. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the world, talk about her a little bit too. So get ready, get some popcorn. We'll be going at this for about 90 minutes, give or take. And let's start with let's talk about the book. What's the name of the book, and how long were you working on it, and what inspired it? Because I know you've written at least one before, right?
No, this is my first, and
this is your first.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought you had written one before. Okay, go ahead.
Leaving the Trap: How to Exit the Reincarnation Cycle. And it came in like a locomotive, I tell you. I've been sitting on this material for years. I knew everything that's in the book, and it was just kind of on the back seat. But this year, around spring. Oh, actually, it started around January, and I was kind of dragging my feet until February. I had no choice but to put it in writing and put it out there. And now actually I'm just starting to find out why. I'm receiving a lot of feedback from people that have been following the concept of the whole reincarnation entrapment. And there is so much more to it. And my book appears to be easy to read. It's very short. It's only about 100 pages long, and it's an easy read, but it offers tools and suggestions and explanations that people are telling me are very easy to digest and very comforting. And so it's something that I've been told that has not been out there yet, although I'm finding out that there is a whole lot of information about the whole entrapment within the reincarnation cycle. And I even recently found out one of my new clients, who happens to be singer with 40 years in Hollywood. She found my book on Amazon, and she wrote to me that this was the most succinct information that she's come across, that she's researched the subject for a while. And she also mentioned the book of Thomas Myers that we cannot discuss on social media.
Why is that?
Because it has to do with events of the past few years, from the 2020 and
We're talking about COVID.
Present day.
Yeah.
And it actually ties very nicely into me coming out with that book with this urgency. When she wrote to me and she wrote to me the description of what's in that book, I literally had an eye opening. I was like, oh, this is why my material was dormant for a while, and then it just popped in, and I literally was writing like around the clock. I did this book in 3 months, everything, write it, edit it, publish it, get it ready, print it, everything, so I literally just found out from this incredible person that I am a part of the whole movement that is to literally liberate the souls here on Earth.
It's interesting because obviously there's been a lot of accelerative timelines accelerating, code coming in, higher truths every day. A lot of the old narratives are falling away, not because they weren't true, not because they don't have a physical reality to it. And here, we've always respected everybody's reality. I mean, to me, the highest activations, codes, downloads, transmissions that we can receive and give are through these conversations. So many people are, you could say, becoming embodied, especially this year. Some people are calling this the year that the yogi and the guru fall, not in a bad way, but that people are becoming more self-empowered, they're self-sourcing in the self-responsibility. And some of these narratives are starting to not have the impact that they had before as we overcome the fear-based programming and the savior-based programming.
Right.
But a lot of people, I would think, in this community and communities like this are familiar with the reincarnation trap. Some people tie that to the moon. And really the bottom line being is that the memory loss wasn't just unique to this particular incarnation or previous human incarnations, but actually a collective whole. If you look at things like Tartaria, if you look at things like the World's Fair at the end of the 1800s and some of the technology that was there at the end of the 1800s. But I'd like to, just dig into it a little bit more. How did you come about the information? You said you've been sitting on it a long time. How did you come about the information? Was it strictly through downloads, or was it through research, or both?
The first part of the book is just my other stories about my experiences. I had a lot of experiences that have to do with the afterlife dimension,
Mhm.
which is actually the upper and lower astral plane, and that has a solid border and solid membrane. And this is where people who come out of their physical bodies, when they pass, they bounce against the layer that holds this astral dimension around Earth. And even those who astral project are unable to get through this because astral projecting doesn't do it. So I started astral projecting when I was about 17 years old, and I did that for a long time until I found the way to actually bust right through and bypass the astral dimension. But before that, I had near-death experiences, including the induced near-death experience that I never mentioned anywhere except this book. And then I've just been researching. Then I had a hypnosis session also where I talked to the higher self or the higher consciousness, asking if the whole entrapment system is true or false, and what can I do to get out. And so I received all these little bits and pieces of information throughout my entire journey. Because my first near-death experience was when I was about 3 years old. I only recovered that. I remember that recently. But so the first part of the book is the information on the experiences that I had personally that led to my conclusions. I literally had no idea that there were other big minds that have written about it or discussed that. I just heard that somewhere, and I was like, whoa, this rings true to me based on what I have experienced in my own life, and also in sessions with people, with clients, when I would see a couple of tunnels or one tunnel, and other planets are involved in the reincarnation cycle, and ETs are involved in the reincarnation cycle. And it's just, so there's a lot that I know, but the book is really short and to the point, kind of inviting the people to do their own research, because this is a subject that can open a can of worms for sure.
Mm. Well, I mean, it's, certainly something that's been out there for a while. I mean, I've done some research over the years, probably the last 10 years. You've come across it many times. I've had my own experiences. For me, the astral planes were very prominent in 2012, 13, maybe 14. I did a lot of work with disincarnated souls, some that I knew,
Right.
some that I didn't. I know a lot of people that did. So the astral seemed to be a very prominent player, and I would agree with what you're saying. The body of what you're saying in terms of there was an element of this space in between, you could say,
Yep.
where many of us were getting no further than that. And then there's different narratives, in regard to the moon and the role that the moon played. And then if I couple all of that with a lot, people saying it in different ways, but I'd say like 2019, people coming through this show and talking about the reptilian
Right.
contingent has been projected out of the realm. The archonic influence has been projected out of the realm. Franco Di Nicola, who was very close to us here at Soulogy, we did 52 shows. His intel for me, chronologically speaking, forecast speaking, it was the best I've ever seen. Even to this day, even though he would tell us at the time, hey, anything is subject to change from here. But one of those things that occurred that he called out, and I've heard other people talking about this, and I'll close it out in a second with an Alex Collier reflection, but that the moon, among other things, was projecting the inverted matrix, a very distorted polarity, which we're all familiar with, the nuts and bolts of that through the lives that we've led. And we also understand that things don't happen on a linear basis. And I wonder, I was watching Alex Collier the other day, and he was talking about and I'd seen this years ago too. He was talking about the when you when you transition, don't go to the light. Turn around and you'll see the cosmos, right? And so I think, you know, just in a general way, that's how most people have seen it. They haven't gone as deep, you know, as you have, like in your internal exploration and experiences, like your dimensional experiences, and probably haven't researched as much. But can you kind of just tell us in the body of what your book is talking about, what, you know, what it encapsulates, like what to expect maybe when we transition, what's going on, any changes that have been made, or just anything you can kind of give us a general overview of what your book is about after you talk about your personal experiences.
Okay, so let's start with that, and then we can go into my personal experiences. So I was not referring to the moon, because I'm just starting to hear that from people who are reaching out to me from everywhere and saying, oh, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this? So I think the purpose of my book is just to give tools, because there is a whole list of recommendations of how to prepare yourself if you want to get out. And one of these recommendations is to literally train yourself to go out of body at will. So you train yourself while you're still alive to bust out of the top of your head, not the slow astral projection, right? But really wake your Kundalini that shakes everything, burns your body, and then you're gone, and you go straight, or you can direct yourself straight into the void. And that is the entirely different dimension. That's the entirely different state of being. That's the higher realm. And from that space, you're literally free. And so I suggest in my book that if you train yourself to do that while you're still alive, and I've been doing this for 9 years every night. This is why I'm not just talking out of nowhere. I've been practicing going out of body, well, almost every night. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but for majority of times, it's been happening for 9 years. So I do this mid-sleep meditations that coupled with the Tantric Kriya, Kundalini Pranayam breath, and that just takes you right out of it's not gentle, it's not easy like astral projecting. For astral projecting, you need to relax and you need to just float out, and then you're bouncing around earth plane and invisible plane, which is the astral, around between the actual earth and the higher realms. And then you encounter the barrier, which some people describe as a glass ceiling. Some people describe as a gooey thing, just kind of grabs onto you like you were stuck in the jello. But most people who just astral project, they're unable to get past that. But with teaching yourself a different way of going out of body, you can practice while you're still alive. And so at the on your last day, when you take your last breath, you're not going to need strong breath work to get out of the body. You're not going to need to do anything. You will literally be able to direct your entire spirit form, not just the astral form, into the higher realm or into the void or into wherever you decided that you want to go, because I also in my book give a list of options of where you can go and how it happens. So this is what my book offers, is an overview of what's possible, what choices we have after death, and also how to train yourself. And aside from just going out of body, there is a whole list of other things like overcoming not good enough conditioning, because that's what the handlers, and I go gently there because I just call them, I just mentioned, and I said there are shape-shifting beings who run the afterlife dimension, but some call them archons. That's all I said.
Let's
all right.
let's back up. Let's back up,
Okay.
because
All right.
you well, no, because that's a lot to unpack. You said 3 things here, and I can hold 3. It's probably the most I can hold.
Okay.
No, because I really want to dig into this.
No, I totally, because
this-
I can talk about this. I'm very passionate about it, so I can talk
yeah.
about this
Well,
nonstop
and
for 3
I'm
hours.
very much a question asker. I like
Okay,
to
let's
get,
go.
I like to go and see where this goes and what,
For sure.
So, first of all, it sounds to me like, just to kind of put this part of it away, that whatever the means is and the processes that are suggested in your book, that essentially what you're doing is you're refamiliarizing yourself with the multiplicity or the multidimensionality, and we could talk about light bodies and this and that and all that, but just to keep it general, to refamiliarize ourselves with our natural nature that has been thwarted or suppressed or whatever, however we want to look at this, and that in essence, that familiarity will bring back some muscle memory or new neural pathways. I'm speaking in a metaphoric way.
For sure, for sure. And it's reconnecting, because the fabric of what's called the void, the state of samadhi in Hindu scriptures, is the primordial fabric of the soul. That's what everything is made of. And you, as a part of it, you're just like a tiny particle of it in the human experience, but you can pull that back out and rejoin the oversoul, or that fabric of reality, and you can train yourself to do it. And so on your deathbed, it's going to be a no-brainer. You just go right back, and from that you can quantum travel, quantum leap, literally instantly go anywhere you decided that you want to go. So it gives you like the freedom ticket to really have any choice you decide you have, and you bypass that entire whole cockaplane.
And I mean, I think there's a strong argument that's materializing that we can do that right here. I can do that right now.
Yes, and you
as
can
people, as people are having more and more what we call psychic or multidimensional experience and awareness. I mean, doing this show and being in this community, even since March the 1st, the changes that have been occurring have been so rapid that it's mind blowing, and we don't even have time to talk about the changes because new ones are coming. But so it feels like, a lot of what I feel like is happening is that we're starting to see these physical attributes of our natural nature that we might call supernatural, and they're starting to merge with these non-physical properties, which has been really more of the norm as we've been in this human body with certain limitations within ourselves now. I think the other thing that I wanted to make sure we touched on, now I got 3 more. You just added another one.
Okay.
But in terms of, like a general explanation, you referred to choices. So let's just say that step 1, we start to familiarize ourselves, indoctrinate ourselves again with our natural nature through certain processes, whether we use a Hindu method or some other method. I personally think we use whatever comes to us now that we're self-sourcing, because I question everything that's been printed or whatever on this earth. I don't care what it is, but that's just me.
Me too. Me too. Same here.
But the second part of it, okay, so let's say that happens, and we not only can do it when that occurs on our supposed deathbed, but also in any given moment, as many of us are starting to experience it nightly or daily or weekly or whatever. Now, once that occurs, you mentioned choices. What are the choices that we need to look out for, or that are mentioned in your book and suggested in your book, once the let's say the death experience occurs and the multidimensionality is then lifted out of the body, or however you want to put it, and that whole that whole dynamic starts of what your book is about? What are the choices that we would be looking out for and to make?
Okay, so the good choices, because I list all the choices in that chapter, all that's possible, including the discarnates and how they are created and why, that you mentioned earlier. And so from lower choices to higher choices. So you're asking about the higher choices, because the space of the void that we call the void, that space is literally encompasses everything. It literally is the fabric of the soul, this primordial state of the energy that creates and sustains worlds. You are able to become anything you wish from that point. And I offer, or I suggest that people experiment with it. So let's say you busted out of your body in the middle of the night, like I do, came out of the top of the head, you are in the void. But before you go, make an intention to discover things or where you want to go from that point on, because you can go to any planet. You can go check out light beings or physicalized or semi-physicalized. You can go check out any dimension that's above 5D. We're all talking 5D, but that's got to be above 5D, because the reincarnation cycle literally cuts off at 4.9 right there. And then we have 5D, and that's kind of still in between. But you can travel from the fabric of reality anywhere you wish. And I've experimented with a whole lot of this. So let's say you decide before you launch, you decide that you want to go check out the Pleiades, or you want to feel what it feels like to be a Syrian being, or you want to feel what it feels like to be a light form from a distant galaxy far, far away, and you can actually interact with the beings who are in that form and download or receive information of what it feels like to live in these worlds. Or you can pop right into that planet or that constellation, a specific race that you're interested in maybe joining later, and feel and find out what it feels like to be that. And so that creates literally infinite amount of options for yourself. I personally am eyeing up the Andromeda galaxy. There are incredible spaces, there are incredible dimensions where it's semi-physicalized, not like everything is just created through thought form or imagination, and that folds into itself, and it restarts all over, and it's just such a fun place to be. Or I'll just hang out in the void because for a couple million years because that just feels the best, because nothing is missing there. So as for choices, you literally it's up to your imagination, and once you start going, one thing might lead to the next, because I had no idea, for example, about the tiny planet that I visit in the Andromeda galaxy now, but it just came in. Or I had no idea about the beings that I have made connections with, kind of almost friendships in that space, because they are in their light body, or they can teleport anywhere. And you will be in your light body as well when you are in this state. While your physical body is like knocked out, it looks like you died, but you didn't, don't have anyone shaking you when that's happening. I do this in the middle of the night. So these are the fun choices. There are worlds where there's no war, where everything is interconnected, and it's just this beauty of reality, pure creation, like creation in its purest form. There are very often no words in the human reality to really describe, but every person who starts experiments, and they're going to find out what their preference is and what they feel like, and after they pass, they can choose to go where they have already decided prior, while still being alive.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think I picked something else up here too, is that in a sense, because when you look at the title of the book, and of course I think many of us can relate to the connotation, because we've said, get us the hell out of here, beam us up, many times, especially during the last 10 years. but really I'm not saying that it's a misnomer. What I'm saying is that what you're really talking about, you're not really talking about a threat of this reincarnation trap. You're just talking about, as we are doing here in these experiences and expanding our awareness and data, gathering more data, and you're supplying more data that provides more choices, as well as some ways and means to develop and refamiliarize ourselves with these ways and means. So that's a good thing, I believe. And for people that haven't had these experiences, especially, and I think it's safe to say that there are many, many people, as we talk to practitioners, even today, we talk to a husband and wife, and many practitioners, particularly since mid 2021, mid 2022, when COVID started to play out. And their their retellings would be in regard to their clientele and who's coming in the door, and you're having more and more newbies coming through the door, and people that are unfamiliar with these things or have had these things happen and didn't know that it was normal. Okay, so I believe that this type of instruction, and this presentation of these different options, not just in how you do it, but also where you can go, is also a great way to to rouse the memory that's been suppressed in so many people. Because a lot of times now, with this energy that we have now, as it's expanding, is we hear something and boom, the code goes off. So that's extraordinary.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm literally getting emails from the most unlikely characters, and they're saying that they appreciate the book because it's very simple and because it's very short. And then there was no million words there, that they read it and they got it. And I also recommend research this, do that. Here's this author who would help you. Here's this practitioner who could help you. So it's more like a thing that opens the door for people to do their own exploration with the list of what's possible and the list of what to do and how, if they feel like they have had enough of this plane. I gave a workshop on this during Sedona Yoga Festival, and there were a couple of people that were completely they were asking, like, why would I want to get out of the, I love it, I it's great, and like, why would I want to be in the soup of creation and the void? There's nothing to do there. So there is very much this mentality too. And so the book is definitely not for those, but the book is for those who are ready to explore.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, this is where we come from, right? I mean, this is stuff that, again, is just not in our memory banks. Being infinite beings, and then being that drop in the ocean, in that fabric you're talking about, we're actually accessible to everything. But you're right. Somebody just kind of posed a question like that as well, and I think that's something that you're pointing out, that this isn't necessarily for everybody. Some people love it here, and really, we could be in a situation where we like it one moment, we don't like it the next, just depending on how things are going or whatever the case may be. But and I was going to kind of go that direction too, and say that, I guess maybe it's a good time to segue, about halfway through, segue into some of the stuff that's happening collective and getting some varying perspectives on that. But that would be, is this the end of a cycle of cycles? Is this, people talk about whatever it is, the Kali Yuga, or whatever the case is, other descriptions leading to this time, all these apparent prophecies pointing to this time of the apocalypse, the great unveiling. What does that mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so to me, it is a timely offering that you have with the book, because it is speaking directly to our multidimensionality at the end of the day. And if this is coming to an ending beginning, these memories and these ways and means that you describe in the book, and the possibilities and the choices are something that we're going to be faced with. It would just make sense if we're choosing to go.
Right.
Let me
And
ask you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
before you ask me, remember that I want to say something right here, that I believe that every person must have a choice.
Right.
Because right now, well, when you are having a near-death experience, or when you pass and you're facing the handlers of the reincarnation cycle, they go in circles sounding like they're giving you choices, but there's only one choice that they give you, is go back to Earth. Either get back to your body, or here, hang out in the lower or upper astral, and then get back into reincarnation cycle. That's it. And they use different techniques and methods to do that. And I personally believe that every soul has to be able to choose for themselves. If a person feels that they want another 26,000 incarnations on Earth, by all means, hey, you know what? But there is a big split in consciousness that's happening, and it's so obvious. We've been talking about New Earth, the split timelines and everything forever. But this year I'm observing that it's louder than ever. So go ahead and ask me what you wanted to ask me, but I wanted to insert this, that the purpose is to give or allow human beings to know. Right. Even to know is enough, to know that they have choices. It's not the only choice. You don't have to loop around here for a million years if you don't want to. But if you do want to, the door is wide open.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what was cool about your delivery. And I think too that, I always say, nobody knows. Yeah. You can't prove to me, and I can't prove to you what happens when this body goes. Like, I'm talking from the human brain, right? I'm not talking about anything we know internally or innately. I'm talking about how can we prove this in this physical experience. What we can prove that we all have in common is the fact that we've been a human being, and we've suffered, and we've gone through pain and trauma and revelation and epiphany, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which, in my mind, for too long, it's been considered a weakness, or like a weakness, something debilitating. And I think through all the shadow work and zero pointing that we've also talked about over the years and all done internally, something's come out of it. Something's been unleashed. Something's happening, and we can call it embodiment or whatever the case is. I don't know exactly, but it feels like there is a huge crescendo occurring. And in regard to, I remember 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I remember you would probably remember this too, where people would say there's going to be 2 Earths, there's going to be 3 Earths, there's going to be 4 Earths, and then they talk about the Great Divide, and of course the solar flashes and all that. But I too am seeing this divide, and I'm seeing it in a way that I never expected, which is both internal. I think ultimately I would say it's internal. I'm observing it, the split in people that I observe. I've observed many splits within myself. And ultimately it shows itself in a lot of different ways out in the collective. But
more than ever. More.
Oh
than
yeah,
ever.
absolutely more than ever. Absolutely more than ever. And in another way to look at it too, the split is the internal expansion of people in the physical conscious body is off the charts. The psychic abilities, the higher sensitivities, the skills, the magic, the alchemy, the occurrences, the collaboration with nature and other external objects and people. But at the same time, there's a growing level of distortion in the field. If you look at the world in conventional terms, in the external and the external only. I spent the last 6 months of last year in Sedona for the most part. I had a few weeks I wasn't there. And that's one place I really started to notice which doesn't surprise me because Sedona is like it's like a steroids, right? It's like
Catalyst, yeah, big
right.
time.
If you're tapping into the energies and looking at the field, you can see so many different things there. But the disparity of what I saw in terms of like two paths was quite amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm anxious to get back over there in the next couple of months and see what it feels like now. But where do you think this divide goes? How do you think that occurs? Is it really two different paths, two different worlds, or is it more like a toroidal field that looks like it's separating, but it's actually coming back to each other, right? You know what I mean?
When that would be the ideal case scenario, that it's separated but coming back together. I'm not exactly sure about this, but I know that the difference between the state of being, the state of mentality, and even physical circumstances in let's say, the new Earth one polarity and the other people's polarity, or the other Earth, is drastic. And so the whole thing is being helped by intense celestial energies. I mean, we've been having our sun has been very involved in this, but then we have the interference that you all know about, and we're not going to talk about here. The last, like, the whole, so the virus, that thing was created in the 1900s, I hear. At least that's in that book that I mentioned earlier, Thomas Meyer's book. So there is an agenda that's being folded out here to slow this process down. But I think Earth is on its natural path of evolution, and so are the people who are choosing to be a part of that. And again, back to free choice, because literally, I mean, we can be pressured to be a certain way, do certain things, but it's not that we're at gunpoint, not yet anyway, so to be to do anything specific. So these are choices that people are making, and the choices that people are making create these two different paths.
True. Yeah. And I think using the metaphor of the gunpoint thing, I mean, I say every day, bring it on. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. How are you going to kill a soul? But I think that it's becoming like an all or nothing proposition, and there is no right or wrong. It's a great comment to what you were saying earlier from TJ Novak's, our sister on YouTube. She said, after I agreed to come here, I changed my mind, while the handlers / grays were getting me ready to come, and they wouldn't allow me to change my mind. And I think this speaks to what you were talking about earlier in terms of how things are presented, because we know that the energies that have been the catalyst for our expansion and our expanded awareness do not have the ability to create.
Yeah.
They only have the ability to present and distort and subliminally try to program you or suggest. And so when I look at what you're talking about, it's becoming almost like laser vision, right? Like it's like how far will you go? So there's many people like myself who are refusing more and more every day to get a driver's license, to get car insurance, to participate in any and all ways, because all of these things are attachments and anchors to the old way. It's pretty hard to, we all have experience and probably too much experience, many of us, of spending time out there and not being grounded and present within this earth experience. So it's a very fine balance. And I feel like the universal energy is saying to me, how much faith do you have? How big are your balls? Or how big are your ovaries? I mean, do you really believe any of this stuff? Do you really believe that this is a solid table? And do you really understand that your energy, many of us have learned to work with energy in many different ways. So to me, it feels like it's an all or nothing thing. And we're either going to take a road, you could almost say that stay in a comfort zone and not move into an unknown, uncomfortable zone, or just take the leap and jump off the cliff, which is probably how we got here in the first place. It
Right.
sounds, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is an interesting conversation. And you mentioned that you were going to be going on some other shows. I know you're going on George Norrie.
I'm going
are-
on George Norrie coast to coast this week on Tuesday. I didn't post about it because I wanted to post about us first.
Mhm, mhm.
And then I'm going to post about it immediately after we're done, so that people listen to us here and then they can go on George Norrie and
Right on.
hear me. This is going to be interesting because that's at 2 in the morning, 12 to 2 in the morning. And that's when I'm not in my body. But let's just see how that goes, because that's very exciting.
That is
I will
exciting.
also be at Suzanne Ross's event of channelers. That's the Transcendence Retreat, and that's September 21st through 23rd.
Where is
As a
that?
special, that's in Sedona.
That's
And
when isn't that when Sandra's Convergence is, or is that the
yeah,
same?
she has a different event. That's a different
Okay,
event.
yeah. Because I
Yeah.
just remembered the dates. Well, the reason I was asking you that is because I was wondering, because there's a lot of movement this year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think there was once the COVID thing kind of started going away, middle of last year, people started moving around a little bit. I know I
Yeah, a
did.
lot. Mhm.
And I was and again, a lot of the stuff that we are guided to do and that we ultimately experience doesn't really come from, like you were talking about. There's no words. You just kind of go, oh, I'm here. But like, are you feeling that? Are you feeling the movement? Do you have any plans with some of these things that you're going to be participating in, with getting out into other parts of the states or the world?
That I'm not sure yet. The thing is that what I do, what I experience, and the kind of work that I do now, which has amplified significantly since we spoke, it's a whole different ball game. So that takes, I literally am living like in a monastery, except in my house.
Yeah,
All right.
I
So
remember you. I remember you telling me that. I remember you telling me that.
So the monastic lifestyle,
Right.
and this house in this area holds that very well. I have access to nature right around my house. I don't have to go anywhere, because the load that I carry, and I work for people. I work on people during my work hours and also during my meditations, and I do all the explorations during the meditations and stuff. And so I'm literally on 24/7. And now I'm doing a lot of interviews too. So it's an intense process. And this specific nuke that I have carved out here within the space on Earth, that holds my expression and my presentation and my service really well. So I don't know about going places. That has not come up for me, because I literally am within the container that
Right.
allows me to be who I am.
Right. Well, I've noticed it too, particularly with I talk about this group a lot. I mean, if you look at the Soulogy demographics on mainstream social media,
Right.
our platforms there, or if you look at it in our new independent network that we're
Yay.
developing, there's 80%, 70 to 80% are feminine. They're 45 and over.
Right.
They are the space in between.
Right.
They are less visible. Haven't really been in the spotlight, haven't been on the forefront.
Yep.
But over the last 6 to 9 months,
Yep.
they're slowly coming out, and I'm doing everything I can to encourage them to do that. And their power, their strength, their stories, their aura, their essence is just absolutely mind blowing.
Yep.
And many of them are getting a nudge to not just come out, but also to I got to go here, I got to go there, I don't know why, I don't want to go, I don't want to get in front of a camera. So I was just wondering if that was something that you were feeling too. And I've heard both. I've heard both from people when
Right.
I've asked the question.
For me, I was kind of laying back for a long time, as
Mm.
you know, because I've been in this field for a very long time, and I never had any big drive to really be on big shows or share my information with people, or even put that in a book. This year, you're absolutely right, because this year just all of a sudden kickstarted all that, and things are coming together quite miraculously. I mean, George Nori, really, I mean, that's been my dream, or like a thought in the back of my mind, like, oh, one day. And then this year, it's like, here, it's happening now, like this week, you're getting up and you're talking on that show. I'm like, holy wow, all of a sudden. So it feels like perhaps the collective was getting prepared, or we were getting prepared until this year. And this year, there are way more ears and eyes and open hearts, and people able to relate and receive the kind of information that we have to offer, myself and the women that you mentioned. And so that's something that I see happening very much.
Mm. And there's, I mean, this year has been an absolute, well, every year, we'll just use 2012 as a standard, because I know you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And again, that's a characteristic that many of these feminine have. But the something seemed, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. There was a 10-year line in the sand, demarcation line,
Yep.
December 21st, 2022, with the solstice.
Correct.
10-year of a Mayan calendar period, right, from
Right.
2012. Many people that came on the show and otherwise talked about how this year has been an absolutely different
Yep.
world,
Exactly.
particularly from March 1st.
Right.
And
Yes. Yes.
right. I
Uh-huh.
mean, so like
Yeah.
March, April, May, June, all seem to have the same type of cyclical nature. The way the months went, the way,
Yeah.
the clearings went, and the activations and the triggers and the whole nine yards. July, a lot's been made about that this month, where you had a
Mhm.
777 on the 7th, the 16th, and now the 25th, which is also the Mayan day at a time. But July feels like it's been bigger than the first 6 months of the year combined.
Yeah.
And it really feels like that something has dramatically changed.
Yeah.
And you're talking, you just made reference to it, like from your own personal perspective in regard to your own life, how things are kind of like falling into place
Exactly. Mhm.
while they're falling apart at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
pretty crazy. Yeah.
The polarity that I've been observing. So on one hand, I'm getting invitations to all these incredible shows and to speak, and I'm getting the feedback about my book, and the information is coming out, and all of a sudden I'm getting that attention in that way. And then at the same time, the very basic 3D stuff is just coming apart, and it's all happening in the same exact day. I'm seeing like the old friends that, let's say, are not exactly up to speed, that took the other path or chose the other path during the last couple of years. They have become kind of like the hijacking mechanism, that stuff just goes through them in my direction, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? And it's happening on the same day that I got this big invitation to be on the radio, and it's like, whoa, this balance. And so walking in the middle of that, or like the center line, holding yourself like that one solid core, while this is unfolding here and this is unfolding here, but being able to keep it together in every one of these intense polarities, that this has been my game last couple of months, especially July. You're absolutely right. But I want to mention something. During the Sedona Cosmic Awakening Conference in April, I channeled the Andromeda Council. Andromeda Cow, sure. Yeah, the Andromeda Council. And they said this, they said that 2023 is preparing for the focal point of 2024. And by 2027, when we look back, we're not going to recognize our reality at all. And the next 10 years from that point on is when everything that we've been hoping for and asking for, as far as free energy and all that is going, and quantum finance and all that is going to come in, but that it's coming in gradually, although 2023 is preparing us for the focal point of 2024.
Right.
But it's coming in gradually, because that's the highest mercy for the entire population on the planet. Because we want, the ones who are ahead of the game a little bit, we want it now, let's go, like right now, right? Like you said earlier. But when I channeled that, they said that it's being held back a little bit because we have to consider the rest of the population on the planet as well. So there's a benevolent process, according to that channeling anyway.
No, I mean, I'm feeling into it. I mean, I'm one of those, it's like, because I don't see anything that I come across as greater than me. Like, so I'm talking about in dimension with different aspects, whatever it may be. And I think that's probably occurred for a lot of people over the years. So I challenge the voices always have, and always will. And I've seen too many accelerations at the timeline, because I remember starting this work back in, 2017, 2018, people were talking 2035, 2057, 2075. I'm like, yeah, and I keep seeing it increasing, but I can't appreciate the way you put that, because, when you have a situation like COVID,
right?
All right. And you have a situation where, through the power of suggestion, that 80% or whatever the number is, just do what they're told without even asking.
Right.
And on top of that, with what you're saying, which I think is important, as we talk about how elevated we are, and how we're basically judgment is fading away as we move towards 100% compassion. I have always felt that the narratives would fall to that. In other words, if it's what you're saying, which is a very good point, there's a lot of people there that don't have, let's say, don't have access, or whatever the case is, that we need to keep in mind. We all, I believe, every single one of us doesn't want to leave anyone behind, nor will we. So that's but if you look at the other part of what I was saying, I've always believed that we're going to be challenged. It's not enough to become aware. It's not enough to have these epiphanies and revelations. It's in that whole Trinity spirit of the alignment of your thought, words, and actions. So that, for instance, you see these different narratives out there with the Q and with, all the different things. And, oh, these people are already arrested and they've been hung at Guantanamo Bay, or whatever the case is. There's a lot of stuff coming up, just like it's come up with all of us individually and our families and our lineage and such. And we know this. We don't have to talk about these particular issues, but I don't think it's so much about that information coming out, because it's within, as within, without. But how are we going to respond to it? Which is to your point. So whether it's, are we going to slow down and accommodate those that may not be where we're at, if that's the case? And what's the difference between that and exacting punishment on people that have incarnated here from the choice of the soul, who have played certain roles, are we going to have 100% compassion and step from a higher perspective? Because that's really going to be a reflection of ourselves. I mean, these are to me, these are the things that are starting to come up, and I think our proverbial feet are going to be held to the fire.
So
Because
there were a couple of points in the channeling. First of all, they said that it is the highest potential that they're describing. And it is the potential that now that we know it, we can co-create. When you say that there's going to be challenge, remember you are a creator of your reality, and things happen by your focus, attention, and words and all that. So that there's also a part of the channeling that resonates with what you were just saying, where they said that we're moving slowly into the state of consciousness where all life forms are considered equally. And this is the true ascended state of mind. And they said the planet has to be preserved. And because you're not alone here, there is a whole mass of population and they all count. This is why changes are not unfolding right this second, but we are gradually being brought forward. And you mentioned also that over the last 10 years, right? How much changed over this 1 year? So much change that we might as well weigh that as the same amount of changes over the last 10 years, right? Just like you said, the 2023 has been all that. So it is forward movement. It's not, humans they say humans are impatient and spirit is slow. It's not as fast as we wish, but there is definitely the forward movement that's taking place. And once you know the higher potential, they said focus on that as a possibility to bring that forth.
Makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And
stepping into the whole full creator being, the whole idea that we're living and unfolding into right now as a collective, hopefully, is stepping into owning the ability to influence and create our reality.
That's right.
And well, hopefully that's where we're headed now.
That's right. No, I agree with that.
Not just you and I knowing it.
Well, and it doesn't mean, because this is what I've picked up. I mean, I'm not saying that it's the gospel. I mean, again, everybody has their own personal knowing, but it doesn't, if let's say that whatever, 2027, 2030, whatever the case is, where it's, the vast majority or all or whatever, it doesn't mean that in the process from here to there, that there aren't going to be substantial changes with at least some individuals in terms of regeneration, anti-aging, more miraculous healing. I don't hear a lot of people talking about going to the hospital and going to the doctors anymore. I hear a lot more stories of people that are taking on the healing within themselves in all walks of life. That's an interesting thing. And then you have the element of the children. I met a 9-year-old girl yesterday that just absolutely blew my mind, and I'm still stunned by it. Had a short conversation with her. Probably the most magnificent human creature I have ever met in my life, and I only spent 4 minutes with her. Right? It was no bullshit. I mean, this was I wanted to say an alien being, but it's not. This is our natural nature. These kids are coming in intact. And I saw one yesterday, and I've talked to quite a few on the show and then to their parents and, just different anecdotes hearing from other people. But this was amazing. And at the end of it, she said, I want to give you a love ball. And she just started doing this with her hands, and boom, through the internet hit me. And I mean, I felt it to my bones. So
Yay.
there's that element of it that to me creates a whole nother dynamic, because if they're coming in as essentially as high pitched tuning forks,
Right.
what is the speed, if you will, of the transformation?
Right.
What does that mean on a linear basis? And even the fact that linear time is doing some really weird stuff. You know, a lot of people have talked
For sure.
about that 24 hours feels like 16 now, or different
Or the other
different.
way around. It depends
True,
what you
true.
ask for.
Yeah,
Because sometimes I say, hey, I need more time. And all of a sudden there is more time in the day. It's
yeah,
literally like time is flexible to your desire or what you need, what you
yeah.
request. And I've seen incredible things happen. Like, for example, I leave at 2:30 and I have an hour drive and I have to be there at 3. And I will say, I'll be there at 3. And as I pull in, and I know that it takes an hour to get there, but I'll show up and it's right 3 o'clock. So hey, you know what? It's everything is very flexible. And on children, I'm jumping up here because last week I coached a 3.5-year-old girl about how to interact with non-physical beings that no one in her family could see, but she could. And she was drawing them and she was describing them and she was scared and she was asking, how do I talk to them? What do I do? And her mom literally had to translate because she can barely speak, that child. But that child has the abilities that her mom is describing that are mind blowing. And that child is operating as a unit that is way more advanced than, like you said, than most grown-ups that I know outside of our field, right?
Mm.
So it was incredible because she was asking me questions and I was responding to her, say this or do this, or this is what they're like and this is what it is all about. And she was like, I was having the coaching session with a 3.5-year-old about how to handle her non-physical interactions that she's having with spirits,
It's amazing. and
right?
and and having more parents that are supporting and encouraging and not shutting that down.
Yeah,
Like, and
exactly.
I look at things, energetically, like, and I keep saying, like, how many are there like this? We had a
Right.
couple, on earlier today, and it was, I was going to say shocking. It was almost shocking, but they're 35 years together. He's retired military. He's got a master's in engineering, uh, and then she's PhD in education,
Right.
and they do phenomenal energy work,
Right.
phenomenal in the matrix. But she's telling me that, oh, by the way, I'm still have a matrix job. I'm at a
Mm-hmm.
special needs school with 100 kids that can't fit into the regular, the troublemakers and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
and some of the feedback that she had was amazing. Was
Yeah. And
amazing.
that
Yeah,
And this is why they cannot fit into the conventional system, because they didn't come here to fit into the conventional
exactly.
system.
Yeah,
These are
that's
the
what she
new
said.
ones.
Yeah,
Yep.
and she even said these are the system breakers.
Right,
And
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I want to
yeah.
mention that thunderstorm, where I'm in Arizona, we got our monsoon season just started yesterday. And so thunderstorm is started. I'm hearing thunder and stuff. So if I suddenly vanish, then it
You
means
didn't
that
astral project. You vanished.
yeah, we can continue. We can continue in the non-physical then.
Yeah, I was there. I was there a year ago, and it was about a year and a week ago, and I was at the studio over on 89A, and I was told, go drive out of town. And I did a 16-minute video. The mother said, go drive out of town, go west. And then she says, take a right. And I pull off on the side of this road, and there was this giant monsoon in the middle of two mountains. And
Mhm.
I filmed it. And
Wow.
I put up a picture, a still shot picture of it up a couple of days ago. But yeah, I know I was reflecting on that too, being in Sedona when you were talking about the whole thing with the time,
Yeah.
because that's what I was going to say, and you took the words out of my mouth. But I experienced that a lot in Sedona,
Yeah.
where I would be in Rimrock, or I'd be in Cottonwood, and
Mhm.
you know, and all of a sudden I'm driving to, you know, say VOC or West Sedona, and all of a sudden I'm there.
Yep.
And like, how the hell did I get here? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
It's very easy. You just have to request. You just have to
It just
ask
happened.
for
It
it.
just happened to me. I don't even know. And you know, the funny thing too is, because it was a lot of this was in July. It would have been July and August, some of August. A lot of the times the monsoons were active. You know, I remember one day was having all this. I was like on it was me and two other people, and we were trying to find a vehicle, and it was just crazy. And there were 7 monsoons, and we pull
Yeah.
up to this guy's house to see about you using his vehicle. And we were on a cul-de-sac, and it was the same thing. Everybody's like, well, what's going on here? You know, and like 22 minutes had passed, and it should have been like, you know, an hour and 50 minutes or something. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just one person. So yeah, there's some time anomalies happening, no doubt. And a lot of these subtle things, deja vus, the Mandela effect, time glitches, other types of glitches seems to be happening more and more and more, which I think is a good
Absolutely.
sign. That's a good sign.
And we're able to, we just, reality is not so solid anymore because we know what it really is. And so we're observing it now. We're able to notice it and able to observe it. It kind of, you know, we become aware of these things. Maybe they were always happening,
Right.
but we were not aware what it was. Okay. And so now we're aware what it is, that you literally can ask and you say, oh, I need extra 30 minutes. I need more
Yeah.
time. Or
Yeah.
I'm there at exactly that same time, and you will be. I promise you, time is fantastic that way. You just need to know that you can. Same as what I say in my book. The number one thing to know if you want to get out of reincarnation cycle is you have to know that you can.
Yeah.
You have to know that you can, to the bottom of your heart, to the bottom of your bone structure. You have to know it, and then it's just going to, that's one of the things that is going to help you to be strong when you are even if you are in negotiation with the handlers on the other side, but just to stand your ground, because they'll run you in circles, and then they're going to start offering, if the running you in circles doesn't take you anywhere, they're going to start bribing you and offering you like, oh, what if you go back and have this and this and that? And if that doesn't work, then they're going to offer you to go to a different planet. And this is where a lot of people probably will get caught, but you can ask for them to show you that planet, and that planet is going to be a little better, a little lighter than what we have, a little less dense, but it's still under 5D. So that's still 4.9D, let's just say, a little more peaceful, a little more relaxed. I have a story in the book about the experiences story. Experiencer's story. One of my friends who shared the story of his very long negotiation with the handlers during his near-death experience, and everything that they offered him, including going to a different planet. And so I have it in writing in the book, along with other fun stories there, like remembering how I came into Earth the first time, where I was, and remembering how I was born, remembering the all different incarnations, or having experiences and sessions where I could see like 2 sets of beings waiting for a soul coming out of the body when they passed. You know, one of them were non-terrestrial beings of insectoid type, and the other ones were the typical angelic looking beings, and we don't even know what's behind that. Some call them archons, I say. All right. And then there were the little what your friend there mentioned, the gray beings, but they were not gray, and the ones that I saw were blue. And they were they had like even like an accounting system for the soul. They had the little like smart glass clipboard, and they were like come on, for that soul, waiting for that soul. Come on, let's go already. You know, don't have all day. Come on, pop out and pass away already. But that didn't happen because her husband asked me to shoo them away. I didn't write that in the book, but the woman is still alive. She was very close to passing in that moment. So there are some fun stories in my book as well.
All right. Well, congratulations. And
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for coming in. And there's a lot of information that we covered.
It's always a pleasure, and I loved this conversation. This was such an enlightening conversation for me too, because like you said, sharing information and even us sharing energy here, although we're not in the same room, that definitely amplifies things and helps a lot. And that's how we grow, with each other's help and each other's presence. So thank you, Todd, for finding the time in your very busy schedule with all of the incredible things that you unfold in there, and the new network and the festival. Thank you for finding the time to fit me in on such a short notice.
Absolutely. No problem. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah,
And I'll probably see you sometime later in the year at some point, I'm sure. And
absolutely.
again, thank you for coming in and sharing space with us and sharing information with us and honoring us with your presence.
It is my pleasure. I'll see you in the ethers.
Okay. You take care. Peace out,
Bye.
everybody.